What's the most inaccurate thing your child has ever been taught in school? My 15-year-old daughter, Emma, stormed into the house last week, her face pale and her lips trembling as she threw her backpack onto the floor. I barely had time to ask what was wrong before she blurted out, "Mom, Mr. Gaines said the moon landing was a hoax." I stopped mid-step, my heart sinking. "What did you say?" She clenched her fists, her voice shaking. "He said NASA faked it in a studio to beat the Russians, that the shadows in the photos don't match, the flag wouldn't wave, and astronauts are just actors." I told him he was wrong. I told him there's data, there's proof, and he laughed at me, Mom. He said I was brainwashed and too young to understand the truth. My stomach turned. "And your classmates?" They laughed too. They called me a sheep, a space nerd. One kid even said I should stop watching fairy tales. And then her voice cracked. Then he made me stand up in front of the entire class and said, "If you're so smart, Emma, why don't you explain how they did it?" Mom, I couldn't even speak. I just stood there while everyone stared at me. Tears brimmed in her eyes, and I felt my heart break. This was more than a teacher spreading misinformation. He had humiliated my daughter for daring to believe in something extraordinary. He had trampled on her dreams. And then, she whispered, he assigned me an essay. She pulled a crumpled paper from her bag and handed it to me. The title was scrawled in bold letters, "The Moon Landing Hoax, Why It's Believable." My hands shook with anger. "Emma," I said, kneeling in front of her, "you've done nothing wrong. You stood up for the truth, and that takes courage. But we're not letting this go." The next morning, I walked into Mr. Gaines' classroom with someone who would make sure this never happened again, Dr. Rachel Monroe, a retired NASA scientist and family friend. As soon as Mr. Gaines saw us, his smug grin faltered. "I hope you don't mind," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. I thought it'd be helpful to bring in an expert to clear up some misconceptions. Dr. Monroe stepped forward, her presence commanding. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Rachel Monroe, and I've spent my career working with NASA and studying the very missions you've been discussing. Let's talk about the moon landing." For the next 30 minutes, she took the students and Mr. Gaines on a journey through space history. She showed real photos and videos from the Apollo missions, explained the science behind the lunar landings, and even brought in a replica of the astronauts' tools to demonstrate how they worked. The students were spellbound, their earlier mockery replaced with awe. But the real moment of vindication came when Dr. Monroe played a special video message. On the screen appeared none other than astronaut Chris Hadfield. "Hi, Emma," he said, smiling warmly. "I heard you stood up for the truth, even when it was hard. That's what scientists and explorers do. We ask questions, we seek answers, and we don't let anyone stop us from dreaming big. The moon landing wasn't just real. It was one of the greatest achievements in human history. And someday, if you keep following your passion, you could be part of the next big leap for humanity." The class erupted in gasps, and Emma's face lit up like I hadn't seen in days. She sat up straighter, her confidence returning. But Dr. Monroe wasn't done. She turned to Mr. Gaines, who had been shifting uncomfortably throughout the presentation. "It's important," she said, her voice sharp, "that educators share facts, not conspiracy theories. Teaching misinformation doesn't just undermine science, it undermines students' trust in their teachers." The principal, who had quietly entered the room during the presentation, nodded in agreement. "Mr. Gaines, we'll be discussing this further." As we left the classroom, Emma turned to me, clutching a signed copy of Dr. Monroe's book. "Mom," she said softly, "do you think I could really work for NASA someday?" I pulled her into a hug, my voice steady. "Emma, I don't think so. I know so." That day, Emma walked out with her head held high, and Mr. Gaines, he was sent to a mandatory workshop on scientific literacy. He never brought up the moon landing again.